Niagara Falls, a symbol of beauty, power, and death. Beneath its thunderous roar lies a history soaked in tragedy. Some came for adventure, others never planned to fall, but all of them met the same chilling end. In this video, we're uncovering the 9 most horrific deaths ever recorded at Niagara Falls. From daredevils who pushed their luck, to tourists caught in terrifying accidents, these real stories will leave you stunned. The final daredevil of Niagara Falls, a son's last tribute. Would you risk your life to honor your father? That's exactly what William Redhill Jr. did. Niagara Falls isn't just famous for its beauty, it's also known for daring stunts and deadly drops. On August 5, 1951, Redhill Jr., a 38-year-old Canadian stuntman, decided to take on the mighty Horseshoe Falls. His father, Redhill Sr., was a local hero, known for saving lives and surviving wild river rescues. After his father passed away in 1942, Redhill Jr. felt a deep need to keep his legacy alive. He wanted to raise money for a memorial, and he chose a dangerous way to do it, by going over the falls in a homemade barrel. Something even his fearless father never attempted. Thousands watched, holding their breath, as Redhill Jr. began his final stunt. At 1:30 p.m., he climbed into a strange, homemade raft called the Thing, built from 13 giant inner tubes tied together with canvas and fishnet. Unlike the strong barrels used before, this odd contraption was a huge risk. As the river pulled him closer to the edge, the crowd hoped he'd survive. But the moment he hit the 167-foot drop, the Thing tore apart instantly. Redhill Jr. vanished. His family watched in horror, and the next morning his broken body was found near the Maid of the Mist landing. The tragedy shocked the nation, and from that day on, daredevil stunts at Niagara Falls were officially banned. A rule that still stands today. A picture too close. The heartbreaking fall of Ayano Tokumasu. What was meant to be a beautiful memory turned into a heartbreaking nightmare. Ayano Tokumasu, a cheerful 20-year-old student from Toyohashi, Japan, had big dreams. In 2011, she traveled to Toronto to study English at the Hansa Language Center. She made friends easily thanks to her warm personality and strong language skills. On August 14th, Ayano and her friends went on a fun trip to Niagara Falls, excited to see the breathtaking Horseshoe Falls. Like many tourists, she wanted to snap the perfect photo to remember the day. But in a moment of risk, she climbed over the safety railing, umbrella in hand, standing just inches from the powerful waters. As she tried to climb back, tragedy struck. She lost her balance and was pulled into the roaring current, vanishing in seconds. What followed was a desperate search, filled with hope and heartbreak. Authorities from both Canada and the U.S. scoured the waters for days. On August 18th, 4 days after she went missing, a worker at the Cave of the Winds on the U.S. side made a sad discovery. Ayano's body had been found. The news shattered the hearts of her family, friends, and classmates back in Japan. Soon, a haunting photo surfaced online. Ayano sitting on the railing moments before the fall, while a smiling couple stood in the background, unaware of the tragedy about to unfold. Her story is a powerful and painful reminder that sometimes chasing the perfect moment can cost us everything. The stuntman who tried to fly over Niagara Falls. What would make someone ride a jet ski off Niagara Falls? In 1995, 39-year-old stuntman Robert Overacher wanted to do something big, not for fame, but to help the homeless. With a message that read, "Save the Homeless," painted on his jet ski, Robert traveled to the famous Horseshoe Falls in Canada. For 7 years, he had planned this daring act, to ride over the edge of the falls and float safely down using a rocket-powered parachute. He wore a wetsuit, carried his parachute pack, and had the support of his family watching nearby. At 12:35 p.m., he bravely entered the river, riding the wild waters like a pro, with crowds watching in amazement. But what happened next shocked everyone. One small mistake, and everything went wrong. As Robert hit the edge of the falls, he triggered the rocket meant to open his parachute. But in a terrifying twist, the parachute broke away from his body and never opened. He fell 51 meters straight into the raging waters below. Rescue teams rushed in, but by the time they pulled him out, it was too late. Robert died from the fall, leaving everyone heartbroken and stunned. Later investigations found that Robert didn't pack the parachute himself, a mistake that may have cost him his life. His tragic end became a painful reminder of the risks of extreme stunts and led to stricter laws around such acts at Niagara Falls. But even today, the danger still calls to thrill seekers. The baby who vanished at Niagara Falls, a mother's nightmare. A perfect family day turned into a living nightmare. In 1981, the Siag family from Toronto visited Niagara Falls for what was supposed to be a fun day. Dunya Siag, a loving mother from Lebanon, was especially close to her baby boy, Hisham, who was just 2 months old. As they stood near the famous stone railing, admiring the powerful view, Dunya held little Hisham in her arms while her husband went to buy film for their camera. But suddenly, everything changed. Dunya lost her balance near the edge and was swept by the current. In a panic, she held on tight to her baby, screaming for help. Onlookers were shocked, but the roaring waters were faster than any rescue. In seconds, Hisham slipped from her arms and vanished into the river below. Then came a twist no one saw coming. While the search for baby Hisham began, rescue teams battled rough currents and sharp rocks, but no trace was ever found. Just when the family was drowning in grief, police arrested Dunya. They accused her of murdering her own child, claiming the fall wasn't an accident. The world was stunned. In court, Dunya's defense said she was a devoted mother, overwhelmed by stress and exhaustion. There was no proof she hurt her child on purpose. Eventually, the judge dismissed the case, but the damage was done. Dunya lost her son, faced public shame, and carried the trauma for life. Hisham's body was never found, and the family never got closure. It remains one of the saddest, most mysterious tragedies in Niagara Falls history. The man who challenged Niagara Falls, but only his pet survived. In 1930, George Stathakis, a 46-year-old Greek immigrant and chef living in Buffalo, New York, dreamed of doing the unthinkable, surviving a trip over Niagara Falls in a homemade barrel. Inspired by other daredevils before him, he built a 2,000-pound oak barrel, reinforced with steel, and even added an oxygen system to help him breathe during the fall. But George didn't go alone. He brought his pet turtle, Sonny Boy, along for the ride, despite warnings from local daredevil Red Hill Sr., who said the barrel was way too big and heavy. George was determined. He believed he could beat the falls and make history. On the big day, George climbed into his barrel with Sonny Boy, and down they went into the roaring waters. But the massive barrel got stuck in a narrow crevice beneath the falls, trapped by rocks and rushing water. For 8 long hours, George was alive inside, but with no rescue in sight, he eventually suffocated. When rescuers finally pulled the barrel out, they found George dead, but Sonny Boy the turtle had somehow survived. George's tragic story became one of Niagara's darkest chapters, a haunting reminder of how dangerous chasing fame can be. Today, his barrel is on display near the falls, a symbol of both human courage and the harsh price of defying nature. The kayaker who challenged Niagara Falls and vanished. Imagine being so brave, or maybe so bold, that you decide to ride a tiny kayak straight over the edge of Niagara Falls. That's exactly what 28-year-old Jesse Sharp did on June 5, 1990. Jesse wasn't just any kayaker, he was a pro, known for taking on wild rivers across North America. But this time, he wanted to do something no one had dared before. With no helmet, no life jacket, and no protective barrel, Jesse planned to paddle over the massive falls in a custom-built kayak, hoping the stunt would launch his stuntman career. He was so confident, he even made dinner reservations for that evening. That afternoon, Jesse entered the rushing Niagara River, aiming to hit the falls just right. Spectators watched in suspense as he raised his paddle high, just moments before his kayak shot over the edge. Then, disaster. The kayak vanished into the crashing water below. His broken boat was later found downstream, but Jesse was never seen again. His body was never recovered. Jesse Sharp's daring attempt turned into a haunting warning. Even the best can't conquer nature's raw power. His story reminds us that some challenges, no matter how thrilling, are just too dangerous to survive. The man who dared Niagara Falls and paid the ultimate price. Imagine risking your life for fame. Would you do it? In July 1920, a 58-year-old barber named Charles Stevens from Bristol, England, decided to chase glory in the most dangerous way possible. He wasn't just cutting hair. He dreamed of becoming a world-famous daredevil. His big idea? Go over Niagara Falls in a specially built barrel. Charles believed his barrel's ballast system would keep him safe as he dropped 167 feet over the thundering Horseshoe Falls. Other people had tried similar stunts with mixed results, but Charles was sure his design was smarter, stronger, unbreakable. But then, everything went horribly wrong. As the barrel plunged into the raging waters, the very system meant to protect Charles failed. The barrel broke apart on impact, and rescuers were left with a chilling discovery. Only his right arm was found. The rest of his body was never recovered. Charles Stevens became one more name in the haunting legacy of those who underestimated Niagara Falls. His story is a powerful reminder. Chasing fame through dangerous stunts can lead to tragedy. The Falls don't forgive, and they certainly don't forget. The boy who survived Niagara Falls. Miracle at the edge. Imagine going out for a fun birthday boat ride and ending up at the edge of Niagara Falls. That's exactly what happened in July 1960 when 7-year-old Roger Woodward, his 17-year-old sister Deanne, and their family friend Jim Honeyett set off for a peaceful afternoon on the water. What started as a celebration quickly turned into a nightmare. Their little aluminum boat hit a hidden rock, stalling the engine just upstream of the falls. With no anchor and no rope, the strong Niagara River began dragging them toward danger. Jim quickly shouted for Roger to put on a life jacket, and just seconds later, a giant wave flipped the boat, throwing all three into the raging water. The powerful current pulled them closer and closer to the 167-foot drop, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Now here's where the impossible happens. Roger, just 7 years old, was swept over the massive Horseshoe Falls and survived. His bright orange life jacket kept him afloat until the crew of the Maid of the Mist tour boat spotted him in the crashing waters. It took them 3 heart-pounding tries, but they finally pulled Roger to safety. Meanwhile, Deanne somehow fought through the rapids and made it to shore, where a brave bystander pulled her out just seconds from the edge. But Jim Honeyett wasn't so lucky. His body was found days later. Roger's survival became known as the Miracle at Niagara, one of the most incredible rescue stories in the Falls' history. It's a powerful reminder of how fast things can change, and how courage, quick thinking, and a bit of luck can defy the odds. The man who challenged Niagara Falls. Twice. What would drive a man to risk his life by jumping into one of the world's most dangerous waterfalls without any safety gear? That's exactly what Kirk Raymond Jones did in 2003. Kirk was 40 years old, going through a rough patch. He had lost his job and felt lost in life. But instead of giving up, he made a shocking decision. He was going to go over Niagara Falls. No barrel, no protection, just floating on his back. Everyone thought it was a suicide attempt. But somehow, against all odds, he survived the 176-foot drop. Experts said a pocket of air at the bottom might have saved him. His stunt made headlines worldwide, but it also got him banned from the Canadian side of the falls and fined $5,000 0 cents. After that, Kirk disappeared from the spotlight, but Niagara never left his mind. 14 years later, Kirk came back, but this time it ended in tragedy. In 2017, he returned to Niagara Falls with an inflatable ball and his pet boa constrictor, Misty. He told friends he was going to perform another daring stunt. Witnesses saw 2 men set up near the edge, but soon after, the ball was found empty at the bottom, and Kirk was nowhere to be found. Weeks later, his body was discovered 12 miles downstream in Lake Ontario. Misty, the snake, was never found, adding to the mystery. Kirk's story is a haunting reminder of how powerful and dangerous Niagara Falls can be. The past isn't always pretty, and what we're taught is only part of the truth. But the real stories, the ones they leave out, that's where history gets chilling. If you made it this far, you're not afraid to face the dark side of the past, so join us on this journey. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like if you've learned something new or lost sleep. More untold truths are coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss them.